It's time to talk about the most handsome man in the Kentucky Derby prep season. And no, Colin, not you. It's time for TAPIT TRICE. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are doing spotlight videos on all the top contenders in the Kentucky Derby. And we are now to our number 3 consensus contender, TAPIT TRICE. Colin Sheehan is with me tonight. Colin, what's up, man? How are you feeling about TAPIT TRICE now? I don't think you're as high as I am. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I thought you were talking about me, the handsome man. And then second of all, I don't know why you even invited me to talk about TAPIT TRICE, because you're just going to sit here for 9 minutes and gloat, and then we'll run the outro and tell people to like and subscribe, and that'll be it. So I thought that's how it was going to go. But yeah,
Let's not rush this here. Let's sit and bask in the glory of a great horse here who has actually his first race at Aqueduct back in November. It has not been a long career for TAPIT TRICE. He's got 5 races. He's won 4 of them. The first one was a loss, and he lost to a really big named horse. What was the name of this horse?
Cascades.
Yeah. Nobody remembers that horse, but we sure do remember TAPIT TRICE because he started getting it done immediately in the next race at Aqueduct in December, where he busted out a pretty good speed figure, and that's where he started to come onto some radar. And since then, he has not lost. And again, it's only been a 5-race short career for him, but what are your honest thoughts on him? I know that there's a big division of opinions on TAPIT TRICE. He's probably the most polarizing horse out of all of them that I've seen so far. A lot of people love him up top. A lot of people are fading him and calling him overrated or whatever. But to me, I mean, he is what he is. He's definitely a top contender.
Yeah, you were high on him going into the Tampa Bay Derby, and I said I want to see what he has. You had him kind of pegged right going into that race, and then watching that race, the way he broke, how awful he broke. He had a great closing kick to get to the wire to win that race, beating that was Classic Car Wash and Classic Legacy in that Tampa Bay Derby, the Grade 3. So even with that break, I still wasn't high on him going into his next start in the Bluegrass. I think that race in the Bluegrass, which you talked about that 3rd place finish in his first one, he had a bad start in that race as well. Was off a beat slow in his second race. And there was kind of this theme of he doesn't get out of the gate very well. Well, he fixed that in the Bluegrass, so to speak. If you look at he definitely got out faster. And I think that's the race for me that gave him a lot more respect that you had seen much earlier than I did. But I do think with that finish here that we saw in the Bluegrass, which is him going against Verifying on the inside there, who, I had as a very respectable horse. He really kind of puts him away here in the stretch run of the Bluegrass. And I think at that point I said, okay, this is a horse that you need to consider, especially with the move that he had on the backstretch and getting out of the gate much better than he had previously.
And by the way, you got to look at the gorgeousness of the gray here. Look at that horse. He is a beauty. He looks a little bit like Essential Quality from a couple of years ago to me, another TAPIT. I love the TAPIT lines, but to me it was, let's go back to, I think the big concern is, and I'm in agreement that the one knock on him has been the starts. Very big concern because we all know you can't win the Kentucky Derby in the first 50 yards, but you certainly can lose it. Mm-hmm. And if he stumbles out like he did in the Tampa Bay Derby, he's got 0 shot in the Kentucky Derby, which is a big risk. I think, some of the other favorites, I don't worry about that as much. But with him, definitely a big concern. I will be watching very closely. Post position is going to be big for him too, but because he does need a fairly clean trip. He's I don't think he's super pace dependent necessarily, but I think he's definitely he's not going to be able to do what he did in the Tampa Bay Derby, which was an all-out sprint, because he literally fell to the ground basically and was 10 lengths back immediately, charged home in a very impressive, just awesome display to me. That's what sold me on him. I was already pretty sold, but that was impressive. He didn't. And then the knock on him from there was he didn't beat anybody in the Tampa Bay Derby because it wasn't the strongest field ever assembled. That's fact. But, I mean, just to get it done at that level, From that distance back, I loved it. I loved that he showed all heart. Yeah, he was basically on an all-out sprint and he did not tire at the Tampa Bay Derby after having to sprint from the very beginning. The downside of that is if he does that to himself again in the Kentucky Derby, he's not going to win. And like you mentioned in the Bluegrass, he finally came out of the gate, and it wasn't a good start. Let's point that out. It was not a good start, but it wasn't bad. And for him, just being not bad was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's been very suspect on its own. He's a sentimental horse for me. I'm going to bet him, and I think you're going to get a reasonable price on him as our consensus number 3, which I don't know, 8 or 10 to 1. I'm thinking. I think he's going to be behind Angel of Empire for sure. He's going to be behind Forte in the betting. He's probably going to be up behind Thermosoda Gake, the Japanese horse, as well. I think you're going to get a fair price, and if he breaks out of there halfway decent, I don't think the pace matters to him. I just think he's a bull, dude. He doesn't tire. He's a tapper. He's going to be a force if he gets out of the gate reasonably well. That's where I'm at. I love this horse. I'm rooting for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he's beaten 4 Derby starters. If you go back, he's beaten Sun Thunder, Lord Miles, who came back to win up at Aqueduct, Verifying, and Raise Cane. The one thing about that race against the Bluegrass is Verifying really didn't have an excuse. He had the perfect trip, as I've talked about. Yep. And Tapitrice did not have the perfect trip. Like you said, I said he broke better, but he didn't break great. It was just better than
5 lengths back. Instead of his normal 10 or 12 lengths back, he was only 5 lengths. But yeah,
you're right. What I noticed was that he didn't need to be ridden hard in order to move up. Something that we talked about with Forte, obviously, kind of really needing to be woken up and having that theme on some of these horses. He didn't need to be ridden hard in order to move up in that Bluegrass. He finished the final furlong in 12.4 seconds, so under 13. If you subscribe to the final fractions theory, which is 13 and 38, he finished the final 3 furlongs by my math in the Bluegrass under 38 seconds. So for those of you that adhere to that for your Kentucky Derby winners, he does check that box. He does win his last race, which is something that you want to see. And one thing I like about Tapitrice, going by Brisnet speed figures, he took a nice step up in the Bluegrass, getting a 102. So he checks the box of having a triple-digit Brisnet speed figure. So to me, he certainly can be in the conversation much more so now than I thought after watching the Tampa Bay Derby and knowing how hard you've been pulling for him and how hard you've been saying this is a horse to pay attention to. I have certainly paid more attention to him now. He's another horse out of the Pletcher barn. Pletcher obviously has Forte, who you talked about. He has Tapitrice, and he also has a horse by the name of King's Barn. Louis Saez has been aboard Tapitrice for the last 3 races. And as you said, he has shown the ability, at least 3 back, to remain closer to the pace as opposed to needing to be all the way back. I don't think that's really his style. It's just when you break that way, that's what you end up having to do. And what I like about Tapitrice is showing that flexibility or the versatility. If he falls back, he's been able to make that up. And if he's stayed on the close to the front end in that optional claimer where he beat Shesterkin by 8 lengths, I think that shows some versatility that you always want to have, because the Kentucky Derby with 19 other horses, it can become kind of chaotic, and you need a horse that's going to be not fold if they don't get it to go their way right off the top.
I just feel like that it doesn't matter what happens as long as he doesn't have a catastrophe on the starting gate. I think he's unlike Forte, who we saw looked a little bit, I don't know, timid or uninterested. We talked about in that spotlight video. We have Tapitrice is a fighter. He's just a battler. I think I kind of said the same thing about Angel of Empire. There was no doubt the horse was trying to win 100%. Wasn't worried about anything else. He's a battler. He's got that in his blood. I love it. I love Saez. I'm all in on Tapitrice. I'm going to bet him to win for sure. I'm not super confident, but I like at the price we're going to get on him. I like him a lot here. I certainly like him better than Forte. I get the downside. I mean, Matthew DeSantis on our channel is definitely big on that he can't get out of the gate, and that's a huge concern. It might be over the first second for him. But if he overcomes that, dude, if he gets out of there clean, I really think I'll be fired up.
And that's such a tough thing to decide. Like, you can't predict that, you know, as
I
much
know.
handicapping as you do, it's just like you're kind of crossing your fingers and hoping. And because of that, that's why, I mean, like a third or fourth place try in Superfecta, absolutely. Because even if he does
Yeah.
stumble or have a little trouble, I think that he can at least pick off the ones you would hope. It depends on how far back he gets. But like
Yep.
Matt, I'm kind of like, it makes me not as interested. But if he gets out, then I agree with you. You're gonna have yourself a good day.
And it's a gamble, baby. This is gambling and it's fun. This is a really good crop for gambling, man. Because I mean, there's so many different opinions, and there's so many different opinions that I kind of agree with. I could be talked on or off of about 7 of these 20 horses that are going to be on the. It's awesome. I mean, usually you have. Last year there was 2 or 3, not including Rich Strike, who nobody had. But I mean, usually you can narrow it down. At least for myself personally, I usually can narrow it down to like 2 or 3. Not this year. And Tapitrice is a sentimental choice for me. Not necessarily somebody. I don't think he's going to win. I'm not going to stand on top of a mountain and scream about it. But I do. I want him to win, and I'm rooting for him. So, anything else to close out? Tapitrice.
Are you risking your child's college education on Tapitrice this year?
No, nor am I risking my
Okay.
college education of my children on anything else in that race because it's too good. It's too evenly matched, baby, which is a great thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. Tread lightly on the Derby, baby, but I love it. I'm excited because it's such a good crop of evenly matched horses. It's going to be fun.
Awesome.
Anything else, Colin Sheehan?
That's it. Like and subscribe. Thanks for the support.
Peace.